Hi, I'm Elrick Acevedo from BSNB, and here's a video of me doing my patient a bed bath. Before I start, I will introduce myself to my patient and I will check what is his name in his tag. After you've done that, make sure that you have washed your hands and you apply gloves. You will let the patient know what is your procedure and what are you going to do or how will you wash his body. Before you start, you need to provide privacy as I do in my patient. Now we will assist the patient to go from the right side of the bed and we will remove the linen of the bed. You will remove the dirty blanket that the patient has and you will replace it later after you are done with your bed bath, and you will put the dirty blanket in your dirty hamper. You will provide a towel for the patient's head. You will first support the patient's head and you will apply the towel under his head. The towel will serve as a support in his head and it will elevate his head so you can wash the patient easily, and it will serve as a guard for the pillow so it may not get wet. Now you will add the big towel under the patient's bed. You will support the patient and you will put the towel under his bed. It will serve as a protection for the water so the bed won't get wet. You will apply it under the patient from left to right. Now you will support the patient in a sitting position, and now you will take a big towel and you will provide some privacy for the patient until he removes his clothes. After the patient is done changing his clothes or removing his clothes, you will put the towel on the patient and you will help him lie down again. You will reposition the towel and you will get some new water for the patient. After you are back with the new water, you will let the patient know that you have a new water and you will let him touch the water so he can tell if it's cold or not. Now you will provide a small towel on the patient's chest, and now you will wash the patient's face with a towel that you have soaked in the water. First, you will wash the patient's eyebrows and his eyes. You will wash it from left and right. And you will fold the small towel and you will wash it again. You will fold the small towel again so you can wash the lips of the patient and you can wash the chin of the patient. You will also wash the patient's neck. You will wash the patient's face firmly and gently so it will be clean. After you are done washing the patient's head, now you will put some dry towel to dry the patient's face. You will just rub the patient's face with some dry towel again and again. After you are done patting the patient with a dry towel, you will tuck the towel on the patient's chest in his armpits. Now you will support the patient's right arm and you will put it in the desk and you will wash the patient's arm. You will pat the patient's arm with a wet towel so the patient's arm will be clean. After you are done scrubbing the patient with a wet towel, Now, you will pat the patient's arm with a dry towel. You will continue to pat the patient's arm so it will be dry. After you are done with the patient's right arm, you will switch to the patient's left arm. You will just do the process again and again by scrubbing the patient's left arm with a wet towel until the patient's arm is cleaned. Now you will pat the patient with a dry towel so the patient's arm is now dry. After that, you will let the patient lie down, and now you will wash the patient's chest area with a wet towel just like what you did in the arm. You will wash the patient's chest area until it is cleaned. And now you will apply a dry towel to the patient's chest area so the chest of the patient will be dry. And now you will scrub the patient's belly or tummy with a wet towel just like what you did in the chest area. And now you will pat it dry so the patient's tummy will be dry. After that, you will refill your container with a new water. And now for the leg part, you will fold the patient's jogging pants so you can wash the patient's legs. You will wash the patient's legs with a wet towel. You will do it from the right leg to the left leg. After that, you will pat the patient with a dry towel from the left leg, and you will do it once again to the right leg. After you dry the both leg of the patient, you will now wash the patient's feet. You will pat the patient's feet with a wet towel. You will do it to the left and right feet. Now you will pat it with a dry towel so the feet will be dry. After you are done drying the patient's feet, it's time to roll down the patient's pants. Now you will remove the small towel on the patient's chest. Then you will get a new towel for the patient, and after that you will change the water for the patient too. And now you will assist the patient to go to the right side of the bed so you can wash his back. You will wet the wet towel and you will apply it to the patient's back. You will pat it with a wet towel so the back of the patient will be clean. After you pat the patient with a wet towel, it is time to use the dry towel to dry the patient back. After that, you will apply some lotion to the patient back so the patient back will be moisturized. After that, you will assist the patient to go back to his position. After that, you will get a new small towel and you will cover the patient's private part. You will ask the patient if he can wash his private part by himself. You will give the patient the wet towel and the dry towel later on after he is done wetting or cleaning his private part. Now he will dry his private part. And now you will support the patient in a sitting position and you will let him wash his hand with some alcohol. You will let the patient clean his hand with alcohol. And after that, you will remove your gloves. And you also will apply some alcohol in your hands. After that, you will put some deodorant in the patient's armpit. And now it is time for you to support the patient to change his clothes. You will let the patient put on his clothes and you will just support him by using your hands. You will remove the towel from the patient and you will put it in a dirty hamper. And you will support the patient to lie down. After he lie down, you will now remove the towel underneath the patient. And now it is time to put a new blanket for the patient. After you are done putting the blanket in the patient, now you will check your checklist if you have fully done your bed bath to the patient. And you will say thank you to the patient.